So become a digital subscriber today and see what separates the news from the New York Times.
Free. John King, USA. CNN Tonight, 6 Eastern.
Well, one of the greatest names in baseball is back in federal court today, trying to save his reputation and stay out of prison. We're talking about former superstar pitcher Roger Clemens. He's on trial a second time for allegedly lying to Congress when he said this to the House committee in 2008.
Let me be clear. I have never taken steroids or HGH.
Clear enough, but Clemens' former trainer said this to that same congressional panel.
During the time that I worked with Roger Clemens, I injected him on numerous occasions with steroids and human growth hormone.
There's also Clemens' friend and former teammate, Andy Pettit. Pettit says Clemens once admitted taking human growth hormone, but Clemens says Pettit misremembers that conversation now. While the feds and Team Clemens start picking jurors, I want to bring in Michael McCann. You know him well as the legal analyst for Sports Illustrated and NBA TV, and of course the sports law columnist for SI.com. Michael, great to see you.
Great to see you too, Kira.
Let's give people a little context here about the fact that this is the second time he's on trial. Let's give a little context about the first time he was in the courtroom.
Yeah, so last July, prosecutors made a really bad mistake. They showed jurors information that went to the credibility of Andy Pettit and his wife. And it was information that the judge had said they couldn't show the jurors. So once that happened, the judge said, look, this is over. This is a mistrial. Prosecutors were really worried at that point that they wouldn't have a second chance to prosecute Clemens, but the judge allowed them to do so because the mistake didn't prejudice Clemens' case.
What was the deal with Andy Pettit's wife?
Andy Pettit's wife is a potential witness in the case, and her comments about Clemens and also about Pettit go to whether or not Pettit, in fact, correctly remembered what happened. And specifically the conversation that Pettit had with Roger Clemens, the alleged conversation in which Clemens supposedly told Pettit that he was using HGH. If that comes out in a trial, it's very damning to Roger Clemens because while Clemens' chief accuser, Brian McNamee, has some credibility issues, Andy Pettit does not.
And second trial, same judge, right? So aren't they kind of hosed from the minute go?
Well, certainly, I'm sure the prosecutors are worried about the fact that they've already had one big mistake with this judge. But judges are supposed to treat each trial separately. And if Judge Walton's reputation is certainly one of high esteem, and I suspect he'll be able to block out what happened the first time this time around.
So prosecutors could be a little gun shy here.
They could, although on the other hand, prosecutors can't lose this, Kira. If prosecutors lose this case, and they've already expanded their legal team from 2 lawyers of record to 5, there will be a tremendous amount of questioning, if not ridicule, as to the amount of tax dollars that were spent investigating and prosecuting Roger Clemens.
Okay, so we know about the he said, she said, all of that. But what's fascinating here, this could all come down to cotton swabs and a beer can?
That's right. So McNamee, if his story is true, kept the incriminating evidence in a beer can in a FedEx box in his basement. And of course, Clemens' lawyers are going to say, well, wait a second, you can't rely on this. This is not reputable evidence. It could have been tampered with. But the prosecution is going to argue that even though it wasn't kept in a laboratory, tampering still would not have happened.
Sort of interesting, this former trainer would keep the syringes, allegedly keep these bloody cotton balls, and all in a beer can. I mean, it's strange, it's intriguing. I mean, what do you make of that?
Yeah, it's very strange, and it gives Clemens some potential to argue, this guy was setting me up. This guy struck a deal with prosecutors to avoid prosecution by incriminating me because I'm a bigger fish in the pond. And Clemens will argue that, and Clemens' lawyers will also argue this is an orchestrated effort to implicate one of the biggest names in sports, that jurors shouldn't go along with what the prosecutors are arguing, that they should in fact nullify the argument, that they should find Clemens not guilty regardless of the scientific evidence.
And what do you know about this judge? I mean, from what I've been reading, he does not go easy on these guys. And if you get this judge, the attitude's pretty much, God help you.
Yeah, this is bad news. You don't want to get Judge Walton if you're found guilty, because this is a judge who is a reputation as a tough sentencer. This is somebody who, when Scooter Libby, the former chief of staff to